start with the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, let's dig into the start with manifests.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve the accounts payable manifest of December 12, 2022, and the payroll manifest of December 13th, 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Wait.
And
Make a motion to approve the minutes of November 28th, 2022, and December 5th, 2022.
Second.
Public
Any-
and non-public?
Were they designated as,
Approved public and non-public was in
Okay.
parenthesis.
yeah, there were no non-publics in parentheses. There were no dates in parentheses. I
Oh.
assume that's what you're,
Yeah, but I think they were both meetings.
oh, yep.
do you want to just change that?
Yep. So I'll restate the motion. I'll make a motion to approve the public and non-public minutes from November 28th, 2022 and December 5th, 2022.
Second.
Did anybody have any changes on any of those minutes?
I didn't.
I did not either. All right.
Who's doing the minutes now? I thought they were pretty good.
Yeah, were these done by your person?
Not yet, no.
Not yet? Okay.
Well, whoever's doing it, I thought they did a fabulous job.
I did the ones for December 5th, thank you.
Hey.
It was just writing down what you were making, suggestions about
Be careful,
reducing.
John.
Suggestions about
Too good of a job.
changing, yeah.
All right, so, all in favor of accepting the minutes?
Right?
Aye. Okay. Boards and committees. I have nothing on Marston. So budget and planning.
Well, CIP is gonna meet Thursday.
Oh, good. Who is on that committee?
I know Sandra is on it, Megan from the school, myself, Jean Reed. I think there's one other person.
Sandra.
Planning,
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
budget,
budget planning,
yeah, show budget.
And who's coming from school board?
Megan.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, that's right. She did it last year.
Yeah. Anything for budget, John?
Oh, we didn't have a meeting last week because we had nothing, so,
Okay.
and then planning board, we have a meeting Wednesday night, so nothing from planning or budget.
All right, that was easy then.
I'll tell you about it next time.
Meeting adjourned.
Sweet.
You wish. Okay, town administrators report.
Okay, first item, request an action from the ARPA money for $42,025.80 for the Birch Road culvert. This is necessary to get it out of our expenditure for this year, and it was an emergency. It was not anticipated, so it wasn't in the budget, but right now the expenditure is showing against the budget line. So we'd like to take it out of the expenditure towards the budget and put it in the ARPA money.
Any questions or discussion on that? You want a motion on that, John?
Yes,
Is that the one that had the double
yes.
box?
We put two in to replace one and put the granite around it, and
Yeah.
it's out off North River Lake Road, or North,
Yeah, the north
Yeah.
north end of town. Yeah.
almost to the Barrington line. Yeah, they did a good job. SUI came in under budget by $6,000, so that was good.
That's a good thing.
They're a good company. I've dealt with them a lot.
All right, I'll make a motion to fund the repair of the Birch Road culvert in the amount of $42,025.80 from the ARPA money.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?
The ayes have it.
Next item, another request related to ARPA. We're currently spending a little over $3,000 a month to rent a backhoe at the transfer station. We're not sure when the Bobcat's going to be returned, but it really isn't a good piece of equipment for there either. We'd like to replace it with a backhoe. It's in the CIP, but I'd like to have it rather than as a warrant article or waiting another 4 or 5 months. I'd like to replace it as soon as possible, and ARPA would give us the ability to replace it immediately, rather than continuing to rent for $3,000 a month.
I thought we already had the Bobcat back. That's what I heard from one of the highway guys there. It's back, is it not?
It's back?
Yeah, that was my understanding.
No one told me. I mean, it's,
Okay.
it's possible. I mean,
Okay.
if it's back, then it's still, you know, at some point, we should consider buying the backhoe with ARPA money, but it takes the urgency off.
How long till town meeting? We got December, January, 4 months. 4 months of renting, if we're still renting, is more than that amount.
What's $3,000 a month? Is that-
Huh?
Didn't you just say it's $3,000?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind.
All right, well.
Funny math.
Why don't we,
Want to table that until we get confirmation?
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
Let
that's
me tell you right now, after reading this and knowing this, I'm not gonna vote anything for spending ARPA on a backhoe for the dump. And I'll put that right out now.
Why is that?
Just think we should, probably do something different.
what should we have over there for a piece of equipment?
Don't know, just don't think we should be spending the money on it. It's already cost us too much money to run the place.
So
Just an
you're thinking
opinion.
of the big picture, you're not.
Big
just-
picture.
Okay.
How is not having a,
We'll talk about it when we go to vote for it. Just gonna let you know, that's my opinion right now.
Well, I mean, I'll just throw it out there that you may not like the way that it's being run, and you may think it's a money suck for the town, and you may be right, but it's gonna take some time to fix that, and we don't want to, you know, make it
Sure.
worse by not having the right equipment up there now. My opinion.
Again, I mean, the function they use it for is to move the cardboard and move the bales, and, I mean, there's a Bobcat for that.
well, and they crush the stuff down to
With the
compact
lull,
it.
it's, or whatever, that's the Bobcat we're talking about.
Bobcat was designed to lift shingles, not to crush in dumpsters. The Bobcat would also plow the snow. I mean, the backhoe would also, you know, you could move snow, you could, you know, it just seems to me like it's a piece of equipment that you typically have at a transfer station, especially one with all the activities you have there.
How much does this special piece of equipment cost? Are we gonna buy a used one? Are we buying a brand new one?
This is new. This is what I'm quoting. I mean, I'm estimating, as far as buying one would be a new one.
$125,000.
And that's contingent on whether they have it on their lot, right?
Yeah,
So it may even be an order, which
Yeah.
could take 2 years.
could take a while.
Yeah.
You don't know.
All right, so what are we doing? Are we tabling this?
Yeah,
or
I'm
we gonna
waiting to
vote?
see if somebody says something about the Bobcat. If the Bobcat is back, it takes the urgency of the $3,000 a month. It doesn't take the ultimate question of what is the best piece of equipment to operate at the transfer station. That discussion, we'd have to have another time. Moving on, the auditor requests the town adopt a fund balance policy and an investment policy. I've included samples, basically, they're what I wrote for Barrington, I just changed the name to Nottingham. And So that's the first thing is, does the board wish to adopt the proposed fund balance policy and the proposed investment policy?
I'm sorry, go ahead, Donna.
I was just gonna say, I didn't have a problem with either one that I read. It looks pretty standard. The thing that I was looking for in the fund balancing policy was the, at the end where it says the target for the town is not to use 12% after the setting of the tax rate. I think we've always been 10 to 12% is kind of what we
Yeah,
target.
yeah, that's kind of in the middle, that's the middle range.
Right.
For example, this year, when we're so late setting the tax rate, you wanna have a couple of months that you can run if the tax bills are late a couple of,
Yep.
as late as they are going to be this year.
Yep.
And this also gives you funds, in case of an emergency, you could go to the commissioner to use for an emergency without needing to go to a special meeting. So those are the two biggest reasons to keep, cash flow, and in case of an emergency, to keep something like 12%.
I've always been fine with that middle number because the high end of it is more appropriate for the larger cities.
Actually, the cities are in a different situation because their collection, they collect before the budget year as opposed to, they're on a fiscal year, so they're
Okay.
different, whereas the town, we have to expend for basically 13 to 19 weeks before we have a budget, and then we're expending for 6 months before we get the first money in to pay for the bills that we've been expending on for those 6 months.
Okay.
You want me to go over that one again?
No, I just find it odd that, we're behind it, catching up, behind, catching up. But that's
Yeah.
just how it was set up.
That's how it was set
Now,
up.
what difference would it make, or would it even improve any of this if we had gone, or can we go to a fiscal year?
Yes, you can, but what you have to
Is that what
do
the
is,
school's on, or are they on their own thing?
no, all the schools are on fiscal. And most of the cities are. In order to get from here to there, you need to somehow come up with the money so that you're now ahead rather than behind.
Oh, okay.
They sometimes use a lot of fund balance and a bond borrowing or something like that to get that payment. Some go to an extra quarterly billing of some kind, but basically, there is an expense involved. Some towns have bit the bullet and basically done it, either built their fund balance up enough to cover that first 6 months so that they are then no longer running behind and they can then run ahead.
Is that something that maybe we should look at eventually at some point? Maybe not this year or next year, but down the road?
Down the road somewhere, you may wanna look at it, but right now, with it's difficult to get from here to there right now in your
Right.
current situation.
Right, okay. Thank you.
Okay, so what are you looking for?
A motion to adopt these two policies.
And these two policies is not that we're bringing us in compliance or anything, it's just as a,
The auditor wants you to have a policy and then to follow the policies. But basically, these two policies are, this is, I believe, basically what we're doing, but it puts it in writing, and
I see what you're saying, okay.
then the auditor can look at it, and when they audit to the policy, are you doing what you said in the policy you're going to do? As far as I know, we're in compliance on both of them, but, that's what you have auditors for.
Okay.
And the audit that they're doing for, last year, these would not, the one that we're gonna be getting in the mail shortly, obviously, they haven't seen these, so they're not doing it, but when they do 2022, they'll have these, and that's what they'll use to look at for those two things.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the fund balance policy and an investment policy.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous.
Right?
Now, Ben, you had asked how much money we have from fund balance. And based on this and the tax rate setting, we were $100,000 over the target. So
Okay.
there's 100,000 there. In addition, you would have in fund balance what you collect over and above the estimates we use for the 434 to set the tax rate for revenue and unexpended appropriations. That would be the total amount of fund balance that would be available for use.
Okay,
Is that,
thank you.
okay. I had a question as to who was going to write the board's annual report. I was not here for most of the time, so,
I'll write it with input from the rest of the board.
okay.
Traditionally has been the way it's been handled.
It's due in about a month. So, encumbrances, I request motions to
So
encumber.
just for a second, just on that topic, I think most of it has to be centered around the budget process and the challenges that we deal with in terms of staff retention, increasing expenses, and all that kind of stuff. I think
And it's worth writing about the unique challenges that, the inflation rate has presented this year. Yeah.
exactly.
We also
sorry.
gotta think of a dedication too.
Yes, yes.
And I did have an idea about that.
Sorry, John, go ahead.
Nope, that's fine.
Yes,
I-
please.
I would like to have the board encumber the money for the police cruiser in the amount of $36,773 out of the operating budget and $333,000 for the ambulance out of the two special warrant articles. The equipment has been ordered, but there have been delays in receiving it in both cases, so we'd like to encumber those amounts. I may have additional amounts on the 27th when the board meets again, but right now we know those aren't gonna make it by January 1st.
So the ambulance money is coming out of that, the ambulance special
Ambulance
reserve
fund.
fund,
Yes.
okay. And the
Yes, hopefully
cruiser,
next year we'll have a Ford.
a what?
Never mind. If you guys want to know, if you want to know the situation, I'll tell you exactly why we don't have one, but that's another story. Because our ambulance did go down this weekend. You guys got the text, right?
The what?
No, what?
Oh, we didn't have an ambulance this weekend in town
Why?
because it broke and we don't have a backup. So the town was out an ambulance for all weekend. And this was the urgency of why we needed a second ambulance because,
Just in case the first one broke.
so we had to rely on mutual aid all weekend long.
John, what was the reason for the ambulance thing out?
It's in an email. It's something with the rear axle or something. I don't have the exact definition of what happened.
It's the leveling, the piece of it with
Yeah, the-
parts that caused the cab to be level while you're going down the road was not working, so it was dragging, if you will, so,
Not functional.
yeah.
Is there a
So-
motion to approve that?
I'm sorry?
Oh,
So they wanted to buy a Dodge ambulance, or a Dodge chassis and stuff for that's what we were waiting on. The order's been out for over a year. The company that we've hired and deposited for that ambulance, kept putting it off and didn't,
Well, yes and no. Part of it was Dodge itself. They had
oh yeah,
problems
that's
with their
right.
chassis.
But again, the decision probably should have made 6 months ago.
Yeah.
When we weren't in this situation, that we should have said, what other one can we get? But the decision was to stay true to the original plan to go with the Dodge, which is fine. But the information I think that the fire department was receiving wasn't as accurate as it could have been on the actual chances of receiving that ambulance. So there was, at the last meeting, they went to go with the Ford, which we shouldn't have any issue because there seems to be no delay in the Ford chassis to that company.
Yeah.
It's just a matter where they fit as far as,
Right, but since we do have an outstanding order for over a year, that we should be,
we don't lose our place. Yeah.
elevated to a more timely response.
okay. So does someone want to make a motion to encumber the funds?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to encumber $333,000 from the ambulance special reserve fund for the purchase of our second ambulance, as approved by warrant article at the last town meeting, and also to approve the expenditure of up to $36,796 as approved in the in the budget for this year, for the purchase of that previously approved police cruiser.
Can I change the word to encumber rather than expenditure?
Yes, to encumber,
Yes, thank you.
yes.
Second.
All in favor?
Right,
Unanimous.
Okay, this next page deals all with the budget. Why don't I finish other items, then we'll come back to the budget where it's a separate warrant article. So number 7 are the items that are not requiring action, but I want the board to be aware. The town office underground oil tank is, to the best of our knowledge, a single hull tank. We are concerned with its age, the high probability of being an underground tank that if it leaks, it could get very expensive very fast. We are looking at what it will cost to take that out of service. If we can take it out of service just by filling it with sand, that would be the best way. We might have to dig it up. We might have to, if there are leaks, chase the leaks as far as they go and then 10 feet further. And put in 2 330s, because the rules change once you go over 660 total storage. Put those most likely outside in front, because we need them, you know, where they can feed the boiler and where the oil trucks can get at them. Probably building a small enclosure, not unlike the enclosure that holds the electrical solar panels, you know, although we probably wouldn't go to cement block, we'd probably do something that is wood construction. We're gathering the information, but I want the board to be aware if you hear anything that we're looking into that. The tax rate, the bills are going to be mailed midday tomorrow. They're all boxed and ready to go. 1942, it dropped to 1911. So it was a decrease primarily driven by a decrease in the state education property tax. But overall, the rate went down 31 cents.
So with the bills going out tomorrow, then they'll be due on January 13th?
No, they're gonna be due 18th.
Is it the 18th?
Yeah, we left, we wanted to go, allow ourselves time in case we ended up with any hiccups in the getting them out, and we wanted the due date to come on a Wednesday when the tax collector is scheduled to be here, so that's how we ended up with that.
So where does that leave us in terms of January and having to pay out money before we collect all the money?
We should start getting money in the end of the week. The biggest payment we got next week, we gotta pay the county. We paid one to the school, but it looks like we're pretty good shape for cash flow. We might not be able to pay the whole balloon payment for the school beginning of January. We might have to pay some of it to get them by until all of it's come in. The big one to come in, obviously, is the mortgage companies. When they send their escrow in, there's 2 or 3 companies that will pay a third of the taxes for the town from escrows that they hold. And they'll probably come in the week before the 18th, but.
Okay. Did you talk to the school about potentially having to hold off on all of what they would be normally expecting in January?
It's been mentioned to the superintendent, but they've got a new finance person who's just learning the ropes, so I was gonna wait for that discussion later in December.
Okay.
And by then, we might, this schedule is one that Betsy drew up, not that the school demanded, so the school has just been taking it as we send it, so we think we're in good shape as far as adjusting what that is. FYI, Fernal Lumber is logging the area near the beach road. I'm getting quotes to fix lighting here at the town office. The gym lights, some of them are out, and the recommendation would be, the only way they can be replaced is with a lift. And that when we do that, we take and replace every light in there with an LED light. It's much more efficient, and you don't want to just replace the broken ones, because 3 weeks from now or 2 months from now, you'll have others go. So you replace everything, or you have to do a lift. The second lighting project relates to exterior lighting in the front in the building and on the side where the police cruisers are parked, to put some additional exterior lighting out there. Again, we'd want LED for everything for efficiency. We've got a couple lights on the front of the building that never seem to go off, and we don't know why that is either, so we hope to address all of those at the same time. I have a list then of draft warrant articles that I think we'll be discussing later during my report, number 11. Marston Well, we're in the process of filing permits to obtain a non-transient, non-community public water supply. There are various levels of public water supply. They have varying testing requirements, and the more people you serve, for the longer you serve them, the more restrictions they have. Once you get above this level, you end up with engineering for the location of the well and a lot of other things. So we believe that this is the level we should go in at. One other thing is we're still waiting for volunteers to answer some questions. I think in the future, if volunteers are doing a project, there needs to be very clear reporting guidelines, so all of the information on what's happening with maintenance, with like where the backflow is, and in this case, or other things, make sure that all that information comes into town hall for retention and for oversight and future maintenance. So that's just an FYI. Also, a project that size under state law should have had bonding.
The well?
Not the well alone, but the whole project. Anytime you're spending over $125,000 on a public project, you're supposed to have it bonded.
A little late for that now, ain't it?
Yep,
Yeah.
and just FYI for the next
Moving
time. You know, it's not a serious,
Even though it wasn't like a whole project tackled all at once, it was kind of like phased as money was available.
you might be all right where it was phased as if no one piece was over 125, but you have to be careful you're not avoiding the 120, you're not phasing it just to avoid the 125. Also, it's not a bad idea to have that bonding. It does add 1 to 3% to the cost of a project, but it also protects the town against the number of things that could go wrong or might go wrong, you know, down the road, so.
Yeah, the one thing I think is different about that though is that we didn't do anything unless we had the money. So as money came in, we said, okay, we can spend it on ABC, and then we didn't do anything else until we had more money, and then we did
Yep.
the rest, so.
Yeah, I'm not saying you were wrong on that project, but just an FYI in the future, if you do another major project that exceeds that, is something to be aware of. Good news on the library lift, it's supposed to start being installed tomorrow. So that's another long delay because of supply chain issues, delivery, and an insufficient number of qualified technicians. So it's not unlike what a lot of companies are facing, but that should go in. There's a report in here on the after-school program, a lot of good things that they are doing out there. And the revolving rec fund
Wait,
used
can
for.
I just comment
Yep.
on that
Oh,
before you
yes.
move on?
Yep.
The reason this is here is because Courtney, the new superintendent, made a comment to Courtney and told her that they think they're gonna put the after-school program out to bid again. And just kinda threw that out there. And so, you know, there's lots of reasons, and John has listed them here, as to why the school initially chose the rec department to run that program, you know, not the least of which it's more cost effective, there's continuity between the people who are the camp counselors and running the camp and the people who are, working in the, after-school program. So, plus Courtney's in a position where she's got a plan for the year, right? And she's got staff dedicated to that program. So, Courtney and I are actually going to the school committee meeting on, next Wednesday to talk to them about that. So that's kind of what brought all that up.
And finally, I think I may have given you this already before, but it's in here, the information on what can be used for what the revolving rec fund can be used for as it relates to building improvements. Basically, the NHMA attorney said in reading the statute, both the projects would be appropriate use of these funds. The statute specifically allows expenditures for facilities used in town recreation. I think it reasonable to argue that upgrading the safety systems in the building where recreation activities are taking place also fits the description. That was the second project we put that.
So John, with all these projects and, you know, we made the recommendation of moving, some of the employees over into the rec fund. This particular fund is not in danger of drying up and the funds not being there. Because they get a constant supply of funds every year with the programs they run, correct?
Yes, funds come in, and this year, they received in excess of expenditures in the $70,000 range.
Yeah.
So, and they're at 347,000.
I
Yeah.
just received some feedback from some residents where they're concerned that, you know, moving so many items into the revolving rec fund could dry up that fund later on, but I recall you saying that they got, excess funds coming in.
Yeah, what the board suggested at the last meeting to move was approximately $60,000.
Right, so it doesn't even.
50 in salaries and 11 in that, scholarship fund.
Yeah, but part of the bigger question is the work that we wanna do for rec offices and stuff like that, cause
Yes.
that 60,000, that's not a big deal, particularly since Bridget's salary was 50% there anyway, right?
Right.
Yes.
But I'd be more concerned about the work that you're having priced out now be what depletes the fund or puts it in danger.
Well, that's why we need to see what those numbers are before a
Yep.
decision is made.
Yep.
But, and I expect that one of the options will be more expensive than the other, and then it will be up to the board to decide which direction they want to go, if they want to go that direction. So we're just gathering information. This was clearing up a usage question that I had received on the usage of the fund. So that's what I had in my report. As I said, there are two items in there that we're going to cover later, the budget and the warrant articles.
On the lighting piece,
Yeah.
so are we looking to light the perimeter of the building?
Not
Generally?
not this side.
No.
We're looking to light where the police cruisers are, that entrance to the police cruiser, the Sally Port, that area, and the front entrance.
Yeah,
That's
because
the,
we have had vandalism out here on this side, so lighting might help deter that.
I think it would have to be paired with cameras, and then you only, after the fact, you have whatever evidence you've got
Right,
from the cameras. Because there's nobody that's going to be available to watch the,
Oh, yeah,
but, yeah, lighting would help as far as vandalism on this side goes, but, I had not picked it as a priority, but I can, when the numbers come back, we can extrapolate
into.
from those numbers to what the other side would be.
yeah. And you mentioned camera, that brings me to my next point, where the above-ground oil tank may end up. Being above ground, that makes it vulnerable to theft, siphoning, somebody drilling a hole and, filling jugs, whatever. So wherever that tank is gonna be, it should have a light and a camera on it.
Well, I envision a locked door. In other words, I'd envision a wall around it with a roof
Okay,
and a
so
loft,
fully enclosed,
fully enclosed.
okay.
Yeah, that, I agree, that you do have to worry about, with the price of oil, what it is,
Yeah.
about theft that way.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything else on my report?
Nope, all good. What do we got next? I don't think we had any action items from the last meeting, except for the fact that,
Working on the budget,
we're working on the budget.
yeah.
Yep.
We've got an assessing,
Assessment.
we've got one item.
Okay,
Make a motion to approve the intent to cut for map 52, lot 4-2.
Second.
all in favor?
Wait.
Unanimous. All right, veterans tax credit, you wanna talk about that? Don?
Yeah, we're going to have to put a warrant article in to readopt the veterans tax credit. We'll need to decide the limits. I'm waiting to see what the language should be from DRA for the article. They've expanded the eligibility of people for receiving that, and they require towns to take a vote if they want to adopt that. And if they don't, there's a default that you're not going to want, which goes back to old low limits. So, that's just, something or other we're gonna have to have in the warrant. There's a rather, obtuse description from DRA of what's going on that really doesn't, that doesn't answer a whole lot, does it? And so I'm waiting, usually the municipal side, that does warrant articles for us will have a sample, and I'm waiting for the sample.
So what will that do to the warrant articles that the town had passed a few years ago regarding veterans credits?
It will supersede them. In other words, it will replace them with this new one. And what the state law did is, if you don't replace them with a new one, you go back to the default minimum.
It doesn't change what we've been doing, it just says, correct me if I'm wrong, it just adds that if you're currently active duty, then you're eligible for the credit as well.
Yeah.
It don't change anything that we've been doing.
That's the biggest change.
So those warrant articles won't have to be resubmitted to be re-voted on, right?
It just, this new one will.
Just this, okay, all right.
Cause those will no
Yeah,
longer matter.
well, it's basically, each time you voted in the past, you've been amending the prior vote.
Yep.
And this will amend all your prior votes, basically.
It actually opens it up for more people.
Yeah. Like I said, I got two grandsons that might qualify. Unfortunately, they don't own a house.
Yeah, get them to come live with you.
No, I'm happy where they are.
Okay, are you guys, just you guys are coming, right? You're not waiting for anybody? Wanna?
No.
Okay, thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
So we're on lines 35 to 40.
PUD, I can't do.
Those people ever get it on Sunday? Those people ever get it on Sunday? Oh, good.
Do I need to make a copy of this for anyone?
This is a copy of your
So,
revised?
yes, it's a copy of the revised, going back to when Betsy first started splitting out the supervisor number, salary number, in 2019.
Yeah, if you got another one, we can do it. Oh, never mind, I got one.
Say that again, Dean?
So in 2019, or prior to 2019, the supervisor salaries and the election worker salaries, everything was lumped into one. So this
Oh, I see what
worksheet that I gave you goes back to when Betsy started separating the numbers out. Okay, so the 2 years that, which really focus on to kind of answer the question that you had at the last meeting, is 2021 and then 2023, because they're both the years that have just the one election, so they're the easiest ones,
2021 and 23.
2021 and 2023. And I did find, as you know, because John sent the stuff out on Friday, a formula error from the number that you had in the previous budget, the previous numbers that I sent. And we'd included the potential for a second election for 2023, being the presidential primary. Most likely that's going to be in January, based on everything that we're hearing now. So we've taken that number out because that'll go out for the next year.
Does that, though, Dee, does that mean if it's in January, is there going to be an increase in the preparation in December for that?
So there is, yeah. And the biggest, one of the bigger issues that kind of is an unknown right now with 2023 is HAVA, who is responsible for the state database, the election database, is revamping the entire database. And they're scrapping what we have completely and going completely new. That's going to cause a merge of information, but you know what happens when information gets merged from one system to another?
Yep.
Stuff gets screwed up. And we're gonna have to learn something completely new before the 2024 election. That's the anticipation. So we've worked into what we think we're gonna need to do for next year, extra time for us to be able to do some of those things. Fortunately, we have the Zoom training that we did for the presidential primary for last year. We still have that Zoom training, so we can always send that out to ballot clerks. We don't necessarily need to do something super elaborate like we've done in the past, unless we have a tremendous number of new ballot clerks. If we have like sort of our core group and we can just go forward with ones that are experienced, then that'll be a lot easier going into the primary in January. If we have a lot of new people, which I don't really foresee, that would make it a little bit more difficult. So, the thing for us right now is that the supervisor salary line that we're requesting for 2023 for the supervisors is approximately the same as what we asked for in 2021. So one election that year, one deliberative session that year. We now have one election and 2 deliberative sessions for 2023 because we are now SB2, so we have that extra meeting in there. Fortunately, we're able to, they're the same week, so we're able to combine our meetings and most of our work we can combine together, which is why Chris Sterndale had us not billing the SAU for that work, because it's hard to define how much do we do for the school and how much do we for the town, because literally all the meetings are the same. The only thing that's different is when we're actually sitting in the deliberative session meeting. That's the only thing that's different. So whether or not he went, and this has only been since we've been completely SB2. I don't know if he got the money from the SAU somehow, I doubt it. So anyway, so that's why he had us just not send them anything and just do it. It's, you know, it's like a couple of $100 max if we have a 10-hour meeting. Let's please not have another 10-hour meeting for the school. I wasn't there, but anyways. So we're basically asking for the same dollar amount as we did for that year. A couple of things that we have, we've been working really hard at is being more efficient with our time and our resources. And so we've really streamlined and cut costs so that we are more efficient. We're doing less, we're doing more with less people. In the 2020 general election, we registered 204 new voters with 5 assistants. At the November election, we registered 211 with 3 assistants. So we just made our processes so much better that we were able to do more with less people. So that saved, you know, money right there. We also ordered a new scanning wand. So after the election is over, you know, the barcodes on the checklist, we have to scan the election history. By ordering a second one of those, we can scan the history faster. And so that $100 that we spent, you know, for the wand, now has paid itself off, and now just, we're saving money because we can just do things more efficiently and a lot faster. And the higher, the elections that have the highest turnout, the federal primary and the federal election, they can take us, you know, 10 days to scan. If we're taking 10 days and we're reducing it to 5, that's a fairly significant savings. The other thing we found out is that we can retain copies of our files on digital media. And by saving everything on digital media, we ordered a couple of thumb drives, inexpensive, and we no longer will making photocopies. We won't be using the same amount of ink. We won't be needing the extra space in the filing cabinets. So we're going to be saving resources just in the physical resources that we needed in the past to retain all of those records for 7 years. And then we're also not going to need to pay for shredding, because all of that stuff is supposed to be shredded at the end. You know, we just delete it off of a thumb drive and it's done. We don't have to worry about shredding. So I know that you guys appreciate the hard work that all election workers do. I'm not sure that you are all fully aware that the supervisor term is 6 years. It's the longest term in the state of any elected official, and it's because our job is so detailed. It takes it's 6 years because it's one full federal term plus 2 years. And it takes that long to really learn and understand how everything works and how everything kind of feeds together. And then they're constantly changing on us, so we have to take what we've already learned, unlearn it, and do something new. And also that the scrutiny on elections is not going to be getting less, it's only going to be getting more. And we are very detailed, and we pride ourselves on being precise. And once again, this year, as in years past, we reconciled to the penny. So there wasn't anybody missing. We were on the money at the end of all of our work. Things were a little squirrely the night of the election, but when we were finished with our work, we were absolutely perfect. And having that detail makes it so if anybody comes and questions, you know, any of our elections, we know we can go back and we can say, nope, this is what we counted at the end of the night, this is what the tape said, and then this is what we ended up with. So we you know, are committed to being very precise with everything that we do. And as a result of all of that, we are requesting an increase in our hourly rate, which we haven't increased in 3 years, to $16 an hour.
So from $12.50 to $16.
Correct.
And so, just so I have a clear understanding, the supervisor's part went up because the ballot clerks went down as far as number of personnel?
No.
No?
No, supervisors' numbers and ballot clerks' numbers are completely unrelated.
And ballot clerk comes from Dawn.
Ballot clerk comes, well, so I say ballot clerks, I shouldn't say ballot clerks, bad me. Election workers, all election workers, that number comes from Dawn. This number came from Chris. Chris, because the last number of years, the moderator that we had didn't do any budget stuff. He just took the number from the year that we had one election and would plug it into the next year. So that number did not come from Dawn, that number came from Chris.
Okay. So what you've given us now
Yep.
is like 7,000-ish less than what was in the first draft
Correct.
of the budget.
Yep.
Okay. And the salary increase, it's the same as 2021, but the fact that you guys have gotten more efficient means fewer hours, so it's the same amount, but more is going to hourly salary increase.
Correct.
Anybody have any questions?
So this 62662 number was developed at the current pay rate rather than the $16 an hour rate?
No, that's at the $16.
Okay, that's at $16.
Yeah, and if
okay.
you look at the very first line where it says proposed, it says $16 an hour.
Yep.
Yep, that number is at the 16.
Okay, good, thank you.
So Dee, I'm sure you can appreciate the challenge that we have ahead of us, trying to get a budget that is in line with 4% tax cap. So, that's why we have to ask questions.
I totally appreciate that. Nope. And that's why, and so I'm honestly glad that you did ask the question, because I was able to find the formula error for one thing, so that took 3,500 from right from there.
Yep.
And then with all of the conversation that's going on from the federal side of when the primary is going to be, made me more comfortable with saying, okay, they're not gonna dump this primary on us in the last week of December. It's probably gonna be the second week or the third week of January. So we'll, be able to,
Just curiosity question, so the Democrats have said, these other states are first. New Hampshire is saying, we're moving up.
yep,
And the Republicans are sticking with their kind of schedule that they've had in the past, right? So we still end up with just one primary that we schedule.
right,
Okay.
for both parties.
One.
For both parties,
Not
yes.
two primaries.
Right, and so what the DNC has said is, okay, well, New Hampshire, if you go ahead, that's great, but we're just going to nullify your delegates. So that's your
correct?
punishment,
Okay.
yeah. And our elected leaders are okay. We're still going first.
My understanding, if I remember correctly, if New Hampshire had voted for Al Gore, it wouldn't have mattered what happened in Florida. New Hampshire was the deciding state in that election. The Supreme Court wouldn't have even had to weigh in. So New Hampshire should not be ignored.
Agreed.
But knowing the federal government,
I wish I didn't.
the chances, this could still move to December. It's not a done deal.
I highly doubt it. I really think it's gonna be, we've had our election
Yeah.
the second week of January before.
Right.
That's the earliest it's ever been. I really think it's probably going to be, if it could be that it's the week of our deliberative sessions. So we could have the primary and both deliberative sessions all in the same week. So that is one possibility.
1 week.
And then we could have it the second week of January.
It's my resignation right now.
I'll stand in solidarity with you.
Okay.
All right, any more questions for these guys?
No.
Good explanation, I'm good.
Thank you for coming.
If you have any other questions, just email us. And quite honestly, if there has to be a decision made and you say, okay, yeah, we think that the supervisors deserve a raise, but if we can, knock it back to 15 or, 1550 or whatever, we understand that. This was more of a number of, if we had asked for $1 a year, we would be at 1650. So, we didn't ask for a raise all through COVID. So it's just more, this is more of kind of a catch-up. It just sucks that it's next year, or this year for next year. So anyways, if you have questions, just give us a shout, let us know.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So if,
Oh, sorry, Don.
based on Dawn's,
Don.
okay, Dawn's email, it looks like we can reduce the election workers by 1,000, and we can reduce your line by approximately 7,000. So that'd be 8,000 total coming out of those two lines. Okay, thank you.
Oh, and the other thing too is, don't forget, this is just a reminder based on our conversation the other day, that all of the election numbers include town clerk numbers, moderator numbers, and supervisor numbers. So when you look at things like printing, there's input from the moderator, the town clerk, and us. It's not just supervisor printing numbers. It's everybody's together. So yeah, so it gets a little confusing. John was like, oh, so I can take $5,000 out of that printing line. I'm like, ooh, wait a minute, you might want to check with town clerk on that one. So just a reminder.
Dee, real quick before you take off.
I'm just
how
gonna
are-
do
how
my
are you,
squats.
How are you securing those flash drives? Because now there's sensitive information on there, right?
So, yes, they are. The flash drive that the town clerk has, she is securing in a locked filing cabinet. And only she has access to it unless somebody comes in and requests to view it, at which point they will take it and they'll put it in the kiosk, computer, in the office where Betsy and Kelly are. And then if anybody wants to buy a page, which they can do, Kelly can just print it right off of there and they just buy the page right from there. And then that goes back to the town clerk. And then Ruthann has one personally, and I have one that I keep locked in my desk as well. That way we have multiple copies in case
Here or
something
your
happens.
residences?
At home. And the reason we have them at home is because we get requests for those documents, and we're not in the office all the time. So rather than having to come to the office to access it, we, we can just, send it off right from home. So we are answering those requests as quickly as possible.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep, no problem. And yeah, they're being kept locked up.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Just a suggestion, you actually,
D, 1 second. Get out of here yet.
the one thing that I believe you could do is to encrypt the file so that they wouldn't have access at home on your device, but you would have access because it's encrypted. That,
Or you encrypt the drive itself.
yeah,
If we encrypted the drive, how would that work, putting it into the kiosk? Would it need a password?
no, that one you couldn't encrypt, but the two that go home, you could encrypt the drives.
Sure, you could encrypt that one too.
Yeah, and,
Because that way if somebody wanted to do a grab and run to,
good point.
right?
And have Dawn and have Betsy and Kelly.
Yeah, you would want to encrypt it using a strong, like a 12-character password, not a dictionary word that you can all remember, right? But if it's, if it's BitLocker, right, Windows encryption, basically what happens, when you take it and you plug it into a machine that it wasn't originally encrypted on, there's a pop-up that says, give me the password if you want to see what's in here. And then, you,
I can easily do that.
yeah.
And we do, 26 to 52 character passwords for the election net process? So we
Yeah.
really like passwords.
Yeah, so that's the other technique, is that it's called using a passphrase, so it's actually a sentence.
Correct.
The sentence has more meaning
Yeah.
to you because of context, but because it's so big, it's that much harder for somebody to guess.
Right.
So,
Yeah, that's what we have to do for the election stuff.
yeah,
So, okay, I'll look into that, thank you.
yep.
Now, can I-
You can go.
Thank you.
Thank
Sorry, I
you.
just
Good
thought
night,
of
guys.
that at the end. Could encrypt for security.
Amazed that we don't encrypt it to begin with.
Well, it should, anything
And I
that
don't feel
sensitive should be
totally
encrypted.
comfortable having 2 flash drives out there with information like that could be easily, in today's society and world, I mean, it's how easy would it be to get that?
I'd feel more comfortable if they're encrypted.
Yeah,
So the other solution I would recommend is, encrypted cloud storage, which you can actually do relatively inexpensively. Remember I had once suggested getting a Synology storage array to be the repository for our camera footage.
Yep.
It also has the capability of being a secure file station that is accessible over the internet if, once you configure it right, but you encrypt the storage. And you set up what's called multi-factor authentication. So somebody that is accessing stuff in there would have to put in their username and password, but then they would have to enter a PIN that would go to their phone, and that's how you control who has access by who is set up for multi-factor
I think
authentication.
this is something that we need to look into.
So,
Yeah.
Multi-factor's a pain in the ass.
It is, but it's very hard to break.
Yeah.
Well, what's even better than multi-factor is when you've got that program that's constantly changing it, you get a 6-digit that, I can't remember the name of it right now, but I have to use it on government sites.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean.
We use Okta.
Yeah, that's a single sign-on, but, well, they do multi-platform as well.
Okay, where do we wanna go from here?
Home. Oh, sorry. Those were
Take
your voice.
take a motion. All right,
Are we ready for non-public?
no, we need,
Oh.
we need
To do something on the budget.
we need to, vote on the proposals that we made last week, which got us at 1.5% over, right, John?
Yes, 1.5% over.
I was, I thought that was.
I thought
pretty-
it was like 2-3%.
I thought
1.5?
that was- I thought that was pretty good.
We could add the 8,000 that was saving after tonight too, right?
Yep.
Right, so that will help.
So 1.47%.
Well, I mean, there's other things to discuss too, like, you know, with respect to everything they said, do you want to go to 16, or do you want to go somewhere in between? It's like a $4 increase.
Well, I mean, she didn't ask for the last couple of years. They haven't had anything that, you know, nothing in the past COVID, during the COVID, what, going on year 3 now with COVID? I mean, it's time.
To play devil's advocate,
Yep.
how many of our employees are getting a $4 an hour raise?
Several.
Are they?
Yeah, you voted several.
Yeah, but it's also, she's not 40 hours a week here.
No.
No,
There's no benefits included with her, there's no,
it's an elected position.
again, so
You don't have any benefits either.
I understand, but that's what I'm saying, so it's not like giving a $4 raise to, you know, a police officer or a town employee that's actually getting paid every single day, you know what I mean? Where $4 makes a huge difference. That's how I look at it, so. I'm finding somebody to work part-time now, you almost have to pay them more because no one wants to do the work. Because they're not getting anything.
Yep.
Yep.
So it's, you're kind of caught in a situation where you should be paying them something for what they do, because it's harder to find that person, because especially since it's not a full-time, you can't make a living off it, you're kind of,
So what does that say where we said no to one elected official and now we have it,
Well,
we potentially could say yes on this?
the issue becomes these 6-year terms, is that, you know, you've got some people that need very specialized knowledge, and they haven't had a raise in quite a while, and it seems that it is appropriate, and the number they're asking for is not that far out of line. I mean, my 16-year-old granddaughter is making that at Kohl's sometimes.
Well, whatever you guys want, I'm just expressing. But let's start with,
Can I suggest maybe a motion on everything you suggested last time?
that's where I was going.
Yep.
Yeah. If everybody, we've got the list that we agreed to last time. There didn't seem to be any big discussion or dissension about anything. We put it off to this week to see if anybody had anything that they wanna think through or revisit on this particular list. Is there anything? Okay, so we can move forward with a motion to, you know, make all of the changes to the budget as discussed at the 12-5 meeting.
All right, I'll make a motion to, approve all the budgetary adjustments as discussed at the meeting of December 5th, 2022.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous? Okay, so,
will we have a, for my personal, will this be all on a new spreadsheet for my
Yes.
Thursday meeting?
Yes. That's the plan. the
So I'm
budget
gonna go on my Thursday meeting saying, hey, listen, we're 1% over.
Well, right now, you're 1.5% over, and you just cut another .166 if you cut the 8,000 for the election workers.
Or one
So
point
1.4 over?
You'd be 1.333.
That, just, thank you, just wanna know that for my exciting meeting.
So, question then for everyone. What do we want to do next? Do we want to come back again and look and see if we can pull out that 1.33?
Well,
That would be $67,000 more that we have to cut, roughly.
So, do we want to do that, or do we want to say, hey, budget committee, we did the best we could?
I'd like to see what the budget committee would come up with.
I'd like to see those guys put some work into this situation, since some of those people that are on that board are very instrumental on the 4%. And again, not to point them out, just saying, but I'd like to see where they would come in for suggestions of cuts. Cause it's gonna come back to us before, to verify their cuts.
No, it's not. It's their budget, and they present it to deliberative session. We don't, it's not like we get to approve or not approve them. Am I correct?
You're correct?
Yeah.
So do we run the risk
Well,
that they
do
could
we-
slash stuff out of police and fire?
Sure.
Oh, yeah, they could decide to shut down the fire department.
No, they're gonna,
Well, I don't think they'd be bold enough to do it, but
The board has enough, I presume, and I wanna say this, people that would vote, I think, the correct way and not let chaos happen.
Because I strongly believe that police and fire have a very conservative budget. And I hate to see that get cut any more than it already is. They're bare bones as it is. Okay, all right.
I think people are pretty open to what the police and fire needs. I think,
Because I don't care if we came in at whatever percent we're gonna come in, I think there's gonna be taking shots at it and cut even more. Just so, you know,
I'd like to get more information on that $139,312 increase to healthcare, I really would. It's the highest I've heard of any industry or whatever, it's absolutely crazy.
Much of that is because we added firemen. All the new firemen get in there and all of them go in at, their entire
only
health
three.
insurance benefit goes in.
It's only 3 though, and that's still quite a bit.
Well, the
Well, it says added
3
4
firemen at 15,000
library.
apiece is like
Oh.
45,000,
That's 4, but still.
yeah.
But
So
there
that's
was-
60,000.
but there was also an increase across the board, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, half of that increase is probably just due to the firemen. I don't know which is single and which is two-person or family.
Right, no, I understand, yeah.
But, I think you would like, from what I heard in the discussion, is there a motion to readjust the election, workers line to $4,000 and the supervisor's salary line to $6,262?
Based on what their revised numbers are?
Yes, based on their revised numbers.
Why do we have to have a motion on that if they've just given us their updated draft? They don't need a motion on it.
If that's your direction, that's fine with me.
To me, it's just, they came back with another draft of it. So
Well, to be fair, Dawn came back with a range, and I'm taking the top of the range, but, you know, she said it could be this number, or it could be that, so I'm taking the
you
top
know, I
number in
could
the
go
range.
back and look at hers. I can't find the email that you sent to us with hers.
I think I have it right here, yeah. She had done 2 shifts, 6 to 1 PM, 12:30 to 8 PM. Some of the work is to 11, 10 ballot clerks, 2 floaters, 1 greeter, 1 assistant moderator, so that's 14 workers at 7 hours, and an additional 14 workers at 7 to 10 hours, which then results in a range of 196 to 238 hours per election. And then she multiplied that by the $16 an hour. That's how she got to
So that's what
3,800, and
that's what we're paying ballot clerks now, is the 16 an hour?
not what you're paying now, that's what she did her calculation on.
But we haven't said anything about giving ballot clerks a salary increase.
Well,
We just talked about the supervisors.
right, but I would think the ballot clerk should get something. I think they're getting $10 an hour now.
I think so.
It was 12.
Let me
No,
look down this email.
supervisors.
I thought we
12.50.
gave them an increase, didn't we?
I thought we did
Yeah, it's
too.
just over $10 an hour I thought they were getting.
We gave them more, but
You know, but I gotta say one thing about that, about giving them more money. I don't mind if we give them more money. If we can't afford it this year, maybe next year we'll find to give them more money or whatever. Most of those people that are doing that are doing it because they wanted to volunteer in the process of doing an election. There isn't anybody that I've talked to there that's actually sitting at that election or at that table saying, I need this extra money for whatchamacallit purpose. It's just a little bit of an extra bonus that they get for doing it. You know, that is one of the special things about our elections and about how lucky we are to have people that volunteer at the rate that they do to fill all the positions that are needed. I really don't think it's about the money. Now, do I think we should give a little more? Sure, but I don't think it's going to break, anything in that process if they don't get any more money at this present time, because, again, I really feel from talking to everybody and being there, just like everybody else is here, have your opinion on it or not, but you know the people that are there that are working are doing it out because they want to be part of the process. They're really there to volunteer, they're not there, because, they're not there because they need the $60 that they're getting, or the 50, I mean, they take it because it's there, they have to get paid, but it's not really something that you do because you're looking for the money, it's just a little extra perk that you get for volunteering that day.
The difference between $10 an hour and $16 an hour amounts to $1,400 on the budget.
Well, I'm not talking to paying $16 either, I don't know where that number's
I'm just
coming out
saying,
either.
that's the range, is
Right.
only costing, if there's principle that you don't want to increase it, that's one thing, but it's not that big an impact on your budget. If you go to $16 compared to 10, it's only $1,400
I think if we told them all they were getting
difference.
12, they'd be like, sweet, we got $2 more than I did last time I did this.
Oh.
And they'd probably be happy with it.
That's why I want a number, and I suggested the board take a vote on what the new,
can you go back to Betsy and ask Betsy what the history on the ballot clerk salary is?
sure.
And again, we should give them a little more, but I'm just saying that I don't think it's, I really think it's, I mean, because I plan on hopefully when I'm done sitting here on this, that I will be voted, I enjoy those things.
Yep.
So I plan on actually volunteering, and I'll call it volunteering, because at $10 an hour, it's pretty much volunteering to go sit, be there for a ballot clerk or do that for the day.
So I will change the supervisor to the checklist, because they've recalculated it at 6262.
You doubt my sincerity, Ben?
Not at all.
I'm always volunteering, hey, that's not,
And I'll wait on the election clerk until Betsy does the history,
Please,
okay?
yeah.
We saved another $160 on line 43 too, the election office supplies.
Well, there we go, we're all good.
We're good. Motion to adjourn.
Okay,
so where are we going with that subject? We just done it? We
Well-
done?
with the salaries?
Well, I'm just asking, yeah, we were talking about it, we're just freezing it, or he's gonna wait till Betsy?
Yeah,
Okay.
I wanna see what the history on the ballot clerk's salary is, cause I thought we gave them some, but I can't remember how many years ago and how much it was.
I think it was a couple of years ago.
Was it about-
Yeah, we didn't give them anything during COVID, so it's been a couple of years, yeah.
Right before that, yeah.
All right, so back to the question of, we're still 1.33% over. At what point do we wanna hand it off to the budget committee? What's our presentation to them, John? Do you have that date off the top of your head? Or-
I think they're expecting it this week, Thursday.
Yeah, but that's for a review. When is the
final
final
presentation.
presentation of the budget to the budget committee? Our final presentation of the budget to the budget committee.
I think it's Thursday.
Is that the final?
Let me look just a minute, I'll see what the schedule says. Budget update, I don't know what you mean by final.
Well,
I
there's-
know budget, they have here, okay, they have the Board of Selectmen on the 9th of January, final budget and revenue proposal, is that what you mean?
yes,
Okay.
so we have between now and January 9.
Nice, yeah.
What's with the look on your face, John?
I'm not, we have a meeting every Thursday, so it doesn't matter. I mean, we're gonna have they have a meeting every single Thursday. So,
Yeah, but.
we'll get it done. That's perfect timing.
We'll get what done? You'll share them with where we are tomorrow. And then-
Absolutely.
And then we will cut the 1.33 between now and January 9th, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because I want them to give us suggestions of what they think, and then we can talk about it as a board and put it together as a final
So
package.
you're asking for suggestions?
That's right, well,
Fine, got it.
suggestions and them
that's-
telling us, I mean, it's gonna be however you wanna say that personally, I mean, they're gonna tell, I'm sure I'm gonna hear from them
So you're
of
gonna-
what they
you'll-
think,
you'll be looking
but I will be also doing my best to defend what I think is right, or what we talked about. You know, cause I'm sure there's gonna be things in there they wanna cut, and I wanna say, I don't think that's a good idea. You know, cause we've already looked at it.
Yeah, I think it's fair to get input from them on that.
Yes. Yep, okay.
Right, cause even if we came in with the perfectly 4%, they still could take whatever they want off it either way.
They could cut it down to 2%, you know what I mean, and
Okay, so,
God help us if that happens.
so you're meeting with them tomorrow night and next.
Thursday,
I'm sorry, Thursday, and next Thursday.
and next Thursday after that.
And then, so I think our next meeting is right now planned for the 27th.
Yes,
So at the 27th, we'll plan on hearing the feedback that you've gotten from the budget committee and then taking another pass through the budget.
Sure.
Okay,
I mean, again, they're gonna see what we did,
yep,
so you average what we give them tomorrow night, on Thursday night, they're gonna take a look at it. And then they're gonna have to go from there, hopefully, and try to figure out, now, will that be discussed all on that night and be done that night? I don't know. Will it be done by the next meeting?
Yeah, you get two
Sure.
meetings.
Hopefully we'll be, I mean, we've done enough meetings, you're hopefully that it will be that organized and that we'll be making that decision to come back to us,
yep,
you know, saying, hey, listen, this is where they wanna be for the number, or we think we can get to the 4%.
okay,
And I could have a positive feedback coming from you guys, not saying that. But again, I think if we have the full board that's on there, I think there's enough people that we'll get the 60,000 cut from that board to get to where we need to be.
yeah, right now, you're at 1.4%, and you're at 67,537 to cut.
we'll love to see what their suggestions are. Cause I'm hard pressed to see what else we can take out of there.
Without slashing services, yeah.
Okay, John, what do you wanna talk about next?
Warrant articles.
Warrant articles.
Do we have those? Your,
It's in my report. Oh, incidentally, they have confirmed, Matt's confirmed that the backhoe has been returned and they're using the Bobcat. So they just hadn't told me.
So we're good on that.
Yep. Well, we've lost the urgency. It doesn't mean we've solved the problem, but it's no longer an urgent issue. So number 11 in my report, I tried to come up with a draft list of warrant articles. This obviously could change depending upon what CIP does, because what I used to do this was, excuse me, basically the department had CIP requests. So, the veteran tax credit, we've already discussed. The fire vehicle capital reserve at 100,000. The fire chief had requested 11,000 for the overhead door problem and 12,000 for flooring. The police was 18,000 for mobile data terminals and 10,000 for a police tech capital reserve fund that would be established. I do not know if you take ambulance operations out of the ambulance fund to offset expenditures within the budget. If you do, then we'll have to develop that number.
We'll see that in previous town.
I saw it in previous ones,
Yeah.
so that should be here, okay. The ambulance replacement, is that going to be a capital reserve item going forward or not? In the CIP, it shows 100,000 being put in towards the next ambulance, and I don't see where that would be something we would need to do in the warrant, because it would, the revolving fund will naturally grow and accumulate if you don't spend from it, so you don't have to appropriate into it, only appropriate out of it. So I'm not sure that you need an ambulance $100,000 movement, because it's not going to a capital reserve, it stays in the ambulance revolving fund. So is that one that you need?
Don't they come to us and ask us to use their money to pay stuff? That's not one and the same.
I just remember every year on the warrant article, they wrote they want the new ambulance, the tax rate's at 0.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think we need to go back and look at the previous years and do it the same way.
There's always a warrant article to expend the money, but the benefit of why it always gets spent is because it says 0 to this, to affect your taxes.
Right.
Because the money's coming out of a special fund.
That's operating funds, but then the question became, so 22 won't help because that was the year you bought the ambulance. In 2020, the, must have been 2 pages to the,
We should have had a warrant article for this. Isn't that what you're looking for?
yep,
That would be in the 2021. Or the 2020, right?
and I'm looking down through, see, like you put money into the, the SCBA Capital Reserve Fund, out, you know, so you put 50,000 into that. If the town, 300 engineering design, 100,000 the highway truck, 20,000 reval, land use change tax.
Ambulance is usually early on. At the top of the list, or near the top of the list.
Oh, okay.
But if you're referring to the second ambulance, they've had a trust fund or some sort that was put in place, and when it accumulated a certain amount of wealth, they were able to buy it at no expense to the taxpayer.
Right, that was the revolving, that was the ambulance revenue fund.
No, that was a separate trust fund for that ambulance, the second ambulance we're talking about.
The second ambulance was a separate trust fund.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah,
question is.
somebody had donated money years ago with the idea that they'll add a second ambulance later on.
Okay, so, the question then is, do you want to start, putting money aside towards another ambulance, or are you going to let the, special revenue fund in which ambulance runs
Well, I think we
go?
need to figure out what we've done in years past and go with that, because that seems to always have worked. So, and I don't remember seeing any warrant articles for a new ambulance, that actually had an impact. You know,
Well, no,
I always remember seeing 0 too. So-
Right, that's
and-
what,
And then
that's what,
maybe, I don't know, maybe.
this year it was 0 impact, because it was all coming out of the special revenue fund. So, you would not be appropriating money into the special revenue fund. If you're saving money for the ambulance in the special revenue fund, it's gonna happen automatically if you don't spend out of the special revenue fund.
What's gonna happen automatically?
It will go up and up and up, and you can buy the ambulance at some point in the future, so we don't need a warrant article, is what that would say.
I don't think we need a warrant article.
I
We're not even
need-
ready
I
to
need
replace
go
it
back
anyway.
and- I need to go back and look at the.
So why'd we write a warrant article for all the years to do it?
You haven't been writing, as far as I can see, other than this year, a
John,
warrant
I
article.
wanna go back and look at the
Okay.
history of what we've done.
Okay, so there's a question on that one.
But we've already got the second one on order, right?
Right.
And we're just waiting for that, so we've already got the money for that.
Right.
Yes.
So then the question becomes, do we feel the need to start building up that fund again?
But they
This year.
they automatically build it with the funds that they're collecting from services.
That's what I'm
That's how the
saying.
fund gets built, so we don't do any, it doesn't come with us for anything.
Fine, okay.
Yeah, that's my thinking, is that,
That's how it's done.
okay,
I can tell you that's how it's done. I know that's how it's done.
okay.
Well, I can tell how admin, but it is in your
Well,
voice.
it's a lot more money to spend that we don't need to.
It was that 5 minutes ago.
Okay, so, highway
Don't worry,
vehicle.
it's still early, man.
So most of these I took out of the capital, CIP plan was to put another 100,000 towards a highway vehicle for a big truck, or whatever, highway vehicle. Paving at 400, that was adding the 100 to the 300. 125 for the backhoe, 104 for a utility truck, 70,000 for culvert engineering, 5,000 for the ADA library entrance, 20,000 for the library parking lot reconfiguration, 25,000 for the gym floor, 50,000 for the meeting room audio visual. That would come out of the franchise fee, but that was what was in the CIP. 10,000 for the invasive expendable trust fund. It was just doing the same as we have, and 20,000 for the reval for capital. You almost ought to increase that where they didn't put any aside this year. That number should probably go to 25 or 30. But those are the items I had that I had seen either in the CIP or based on the prior warrant.
One thing that Sean talked to us about, John, was, you know how Fawn wants to establish that, the fund for purchases like.
The tech fund, yeah.
Yeah, the tech fund, which she described as having that money there to make different purchases that they might need.
Yes.
So Sean had asked about setting up one of those for highway as well, or for public works as well. Do you recall that conversation?
Yes.
Okay, so were we not putting that on this list for consideration?
It's, given the, many lines in his budget that relate to purchase of smaller items,
Okay,
the big items get covered in the truck fund, the backhoe, you know, you're
Okay.
putting in big items in here. For the big items, the culvert is another one, you need to cover, the construction after you do the engineering in
Okay.
whatever year it comes.
okay, all right,
I think his are so big that they almost have to be warrant articles.
okay, fine.
Or the capital reserve on the, like on the truck, you're putting 100,000 in. I don't know what the restriction is on the use of that, capital, reserve. It probably it's described in here. Highway truck capital reserve, so it's not a highway equipment capital reserve based on that, so you couldn't put it towards a grader or a backhoe or something else. It looks like it can only be used on trucks.
Yes.
You'd have to look at the original article setting it up. Could it be used on a lighter duty truck than, you know, the big plow trucks?
Something to look into.
Excited for it to say truck. It's unfortunate it says truck. It should
Yes.
have been set up as highway equipment. So I kinda had a question about some of these, like, this is a long list.
Mm-hmm.
For like the fire department doors and flooring, can we combine those into one warrant article? Or do we put ourselves at risk by doing that?
Well, I think you first have to decide, is flooring a priority? I think the doors, he made a good case as far as safety and
Yeah.
equipment for, but the worn floor, we're living with worn floors here. I mean,
And the only thing I'd say about the worn floors there, again, not in favor of getting this worn out, is this, the roof leaks at the fire station.
it- why that isn't fixed immediate, why didn't they go after the solar company?
So, if you have a leaky roof, why are you gonna fix your floor? Until your roof stops leaking, why would you put a new, why would you take care of your floor?
That's fair.
Fix the leak, then do a floor.
Well, yeah.
Send somebody up there with a can of Flex Seal and just spray all that stuff. Seal it up for good.
Well, I'm wondering, A, why you didn't fix it, and B, if it was the solar panel guys that caused it, why you didn't go after them for it?
Obviously, we're finding out a lot more with you, John, than we were before, so.
I mean, it seems to me like there are at least two things that should be done on that roof immediately, and I don't know why they're, keep getting put off and discussed for opera or something else.
Is it too late to go back to the solar company and say, hey, this is from when you started this?
How old is the solar?
What, 5 years now?
Yeah, you're probably out of date then. You should have done it when it first started leaking.
Solar on the fire station.
If it's 5 years out, I think we just need to get a roofer up there to, how much is it gonna be to fix it? And, yeah, the first thing I would've tried is one of those cans of tile.
Flex
you
seal.
just- Yeah,
So why is Jay, what's his thinking that he's prioritizing the floor over the roof?
I don't know.
I mean, the floor's cement, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a cement, it's like this with tile.
Any idea what his thinking is on
I haven't even got a chance to talk to him about it. We just talked about him putting numbers to his list of things that he wanted to see done.
John, could you tell me how much you're looking for the floor, the money?
The floor, he's looking at, 12,000.
I believe that's like a reseal coating, the whole thing, you know, it's, I mean,
Well, I mean, he's got gutters, I mean, there are maintenance items up there that I think should be covered under maintenance rather than going to ARPA. But,
that? Yeah.
the building definitely needs work, and I think that it needs to,
well, one of his things too, I thought about the other day too, is he was saying above the doorways when you come into the building. Now, whether you're getting wet because the gutters are all clogged and the water's rolling over or whatever, but he was adding those little roof things. Now, he possibly could use the money that he's getting, from the impact fees, cause that is an addition onto the building. It is a new project. It isn't fixing something old, it's new. So he might be able, I didn't say it was I'm just saying though, you might be able to use some of those impact fees. Well, we paid off the fire station, so he has money that's gonna be occurring in there, that if he doesn't spend, it doesn't get spent.
it gets back.
So, again, if there's something new that needs to go on there, like these over the doorways, entry, you know, I don't know what you call them, there's a name for them or whatever, but
Unfortunately, this list sounds a lot like delayed maintenance rather than new. I mean, the roof,
Say
the
the same for every
gutters.
building in town.
well, there's nothing on here for his roof, is there?
No,
No, so I'm saying we haven't got there yet, so.
no, but I mean, I think on any building, I believe you start with the roof and the foundation. Those are the two things you need to work on first, and after that, you can go after the in-between parts.
Okay. I mean, I think this is the first time we're seeing this list, so I don't think we're gonna make any grand decisions on this list.
No, and I think we really gotta wait and see what comes out of CIP, cause it could be different, and they could move things around before CIP brings it. This was done out of the summer CIP.
Yep.
And one question I have for you guys, if you recall this, where we at the revaluation, see, you know, before we pay Avatar, we build up, and last year it didn't get on the, was that voted out when we were at deliberation?
Oh, yeah, it was voted down.
Which is,
So it never even got to a warrant article.
Well, the voters never had a chance to pass it in
What?
the
But-
ballot.
That's,
well, the whole purpose of the deliberative session is to decide what goes on the ballot.
okay, so I mean, we got a list here that we have to, then that's gonna be, this list could possibly change too. These are our proposed, possible
Right.
warrant articles, not our set in stone of what's gonna happen, because again, these things could be taken away.
It was voted on ballot, 578 yes, 686 no. So it lost by 100 votes. I mean, it went to the voters, and the voters voted it down.
So, but warrant articles can get it.
Did we always
wait,
have it?
Wait, warrant that for saving for the rebound?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was always a warrant article, right?
Yes, because it costs
I mean, this is the first year that it ever got voted down?
Yeah. It costs $100,000, and that's
Oh,
why
yeah.
we
It's every
put away
5 years, yep.
20,000. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
So correct me, John, if I just said the wrong thing. Warrant articles can change at deliberative session in terms of the amount.
Oh, yes,
But then the warrant article has to go forward with the revised amount.
right, that's why you had a 0 for, I think, the truck. Yeah, the warrant article can be amended as long as it's in keeping with the subject matter. But, so, you can't simply say, Barrington used to, and they won a court case to, they just changed everything to C. They eliminated everything after those words to
Oh,
C.
yeah, yeah.
And the legislature they won in court, and then the legislature changed the rules and said, no, you have to keep the subject matter.
Yep.
So you had a 0, they zeroed out the dollar amount.
Now, what we should consider, what the right thing to do would be to put that at 40,000 this year to make up for last year.
For what item, sorry?
Revaluations,
Oh, thank you.
because we're gonna eventually hit that point where we're gonna
You
have
have
to.
to do it every 5 years.
Correct, but we are going to hit a point, whether it's in that fifth year or whatever, where we're gonna have to double up.
Or we should just put it at 25, and then just do a 25 this year, 25 next year, 25 the year.
We can do that
And we do
too.
it that way, 4 to get to our 100.
Yeah. we can do that
That might be an easier swallow than asking for 40.
too. Yeah,
I will tell you what my recommendation would be. I don't know how you get there until after the next certification year, is most towns do a rolling data update in which they do a quarter of the town, each of the first 4 years. They go look at the house, verify the measurements, see if building had occurred. So they're constantly refining their database in the first 4 years. And then in the 5th year, they do the statistical analysis as it relates
that's how
to,
we do it.
Yeah.
They've been doing it.
and if that's the way you're doing this, should not be 100,000 the last year. Because that statistical update is, you know,
So they go around, like, they're gonna come, just use me for an example, but they're gonna come to see my house, coming up.
okay,
Give me a full revaluation on the whole thing, since it's brand new. And then that number is gonna base me on where I'm going for my taxes, so they are updating anybody that's doing additions, anybody that's doing all that.
right.
But in the 5-year term, they go and do a whole town, one shot. Here's everybody, here's the market value for all the houses, and they go and
Right,
everybody can see that big, that's usually why every 5 years, we see that one point where the numbers can change on your taxes the most. And your basically, your value of your house always pretty much stays the same for the 5, and then either you go, ooh, look, we went up, our house went up $30,000, or like I use the example of 2008, when the market crashed, everybody's house value went down like 100 grand from where it was, cause that was the time for our
Right.
reval for that year.
So-
Or 2010 it was, or whatever
They're
it
not
was.
going and seeing every house in town in that 5th year.
No, but I think they're using the same thing, they're using the market, say, okay, this is what your house was before, this is what it, you know,
But they're using the data that they've collected over. 4
exactly.
years.
Yeah,
for $100,000, I would expect they're looking at every house in that 5th year.
well, I mean, every property's getting looked at, yeah, they're not, no one's value's staying the same, supposedly.
Well, when you say looked at, do you mean the data is being looked at, or the physical building is being looked at, measured, and photographed?
Well, they drive around every single road in town and look at your house.
On that 5th year?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
See, that's what I'm suggesting is, a lot of towns have gone so that a quarter of the
There's a
town
lot
is
of good
looked
stuff
at
for
the
the
first
DTA.
year, and a quarter is looked at the second year, and a quarter is looked at the 3rd year, and the final quarter the 4th year. And then the 5th year, they adjust the values based upon sales and factors like neighborhood and others. But they're constantly updating the data for the first 4 years. They don't change the assessment other than they find a bathroom, or they see the shed's been torn down, or there's garage added, or things like that.
Can you,
But see, I, you know, again, I understand what you're saying on that, but is that something that we can control Avatar doing? Or is that something that says, no, Avatar's process is this way here? So.
I will
again,
check if, I mean, I would be very surprised if Avatar didn't do that.
Well, you think they'd
In
wanna do
fact,
it the easiest way for themselves instead of the most difficult way.
Right, the most difficult is every 5th year, you have to get all these extra people in one place. Whereas if you have the rolling, and if you're doing the rolling, you pay a little more every year, but you're paying it directly for services, not paying it all at once.
John, can you confirm for
Yeah.
us exactly how it's being done?
Yep,
Well, couldn't you also remember that it was 2 or 3 years ago, not to kill the subject, but we actually had Avatar here, people were scheduling appointments and coming into the town office, and they were meeting, and we only had, which is surprising, but we only had like maybe 50 people out of the whole town that actually
Yeah.
came in to actually sit with Avatar and go over their properties. But we actually had time set aside because of the new reval of all the people's properties, when they got their new tax card that said, my house is worth this, we actually had time set apart from them to come in to go over it.
yeah,
I
and,
don't know, if that might be the more inexpensive way for them to do it, is the reason why we're doing it. Because remember, we've done everything here for cost-effective purposes.
well, that isn't even the most cost-effective. The most cost-effective, by law, you have to notify them of the change in assessment. Towns I've worked in, the notification is the tax bill. And once they get the tax bill, then they come and see you because when they first get the new assessment, they're all up in arms because they don't recognize the seesaw effect. If the assessments of everybody in town go up 50%, in theory, the tax rate comes down 50%. Because there is that, and, you know, the reason I
And
would wait
again,
until
I'm
the
not-
tax
I'm not
bill
here.
goes is because then they know what their impact will be on that.
And
Okay,
again,
I'll
something
check.
we can talk about and discuss, because I mean, I've been sitting on,
I will look into that. I'll look into the Highway Capital Reserve, how it was formed, the Avatar and the rolling reval. I'll change the supervisors of the checklist and all the things that were in the suggested list from 12.5 and get that out.
okay.
So that's what we're at right now on that. I do have a couple of things for non-public.
Did you wanna talk about your fall budget?
Hold on.
The default budget, I don't need to because you
Did say-
voted.
Did you tell me you needed signatures?
Yes, I need signatures on the DRA form.
Yes.
Yes, that. Actually, there's one with your name on it.
Well, this was what was in my folder.
That was in your packet, but in the signature folder, I put one with,
Right there.
here.
John, if I could, I think,
You voted to accept that default
Yeah,
budget.
yeah.
So,
the,
that was what you voted
It was over the summer.
in the summer, yes.
Yeah.
What was the question?
I think, you might wanna go back to the police chief, the warrant article for the mobile data terminals, I believe she said in the past that she wasn't gonna need that until 2024.
Okay, that's why I said this is, I assume CIP will clean those kinds
Yeah.
of things up when they
Yeah.
come through.
Yeah.
We also have the Debbie Ricker appointment here.
Who?
Library.
For all, yeah, for the library trustees.
Didn't we already vote her?
Did we vote? I don't think we did, did we?
Pen.
No,
A couple of months ago?
oh, I don't know, about a couple months ago.
Let's just do it again.
I'm gonna make a motion to the select board appoint Debbie Ricker to the library trustees as an alternate member for the period December 12th, 2022 to December 12th, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Right.
Unanimous. All right, you got intent to cut right there, sign. Library appointment. That's that.
Is that-
All right, is that everything for public?
Did you have the salary changes for signature that had been approved?
Yeah, I
Hires and
thought that
everything?
was something we had to talk about in non-public.
Okay,
I do have the sheets here.
yep, okay.
So what letters?
Is that all signed?
These are, I'm still waiting for a few things.
I think it's personnel, right? So isn't that
Yes,
2A?
yes,
And no other letters?
correct.
Okay. I'll make a motion, the select board enter non-public session per RSA 91-A:3, section 2A.
Second.
Roll call.
I've been Bartlett.
Hi, Tyler Eden.
Hi, Joe Moore.
I don't have Danis.
Hi, Tony Dumas.
We will go into non-public now. When we are done with the non-public session, we will come out and adjourn the public meeting. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Steve, for being our sole audience.